All right, we're here, and I'm Soma. I'll be your moderator for today. But first, let's start with an intro of our amazing speakers here on stage. Please, let's start with Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura. We have to apologize in advance, actually, for our voices. This is our panel on leadership, and basically part of leadership was all of our networking we did last night. So we have a bit of a rough voice going on because we do work so hard. I'm the head of NEM in Thailand. And we're relatively new in Thailand now, but we've been around for a while, and we hope to expand much more in Thailand in the future. Nice to meet you.
And next.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jackie Wen. I'm based in Taiwan. I'm 500 Startups venture partner based in Taiwan and Silicon Valley. I had my own technical startups in medical imaging and programming education back decades ago. And so I always been an engineer ever in my life, and now I become at the part of another corner of the table to do the investment and finding good startups, especially in blockchain, AI, big data. Very glad to be here. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jane Lippencott. So about a year and a half ago, I was on the founding team of a project called ZenCash, which is building a directed acyclic graph-based platform for encrypted transactions and also an on-chain governance model. More recently, I'm focused on working with funds. So I'm a partner at 2 funds, and I advise one as well called Origin X Capital. And I'm also on the advisory board of a bunch of startups.
Awesome. So the main topic for today is actually about managing people and leadership. So I would like to hear some stories from our amazing speakers here let's talk about your team and how big your team is and your stories working with the teams and how to grow your communities.
You want me to go first? Okay, I'll go first. Unfortunately, my team in Thailand is me right now. So I can manage myself quite well, actually. But I have previous experience with managing teams in both government and private sector. Growing the community in Thailand, we are starting from the ground floor here. But we do have a small but passionate community. We are hiring, so
That's right.
we do look to expand our team in Thailand, and I think it's very important, if not essential, since I am not from Thailand originally, even though I've been here for a very long time, for us to have a very strong local staff component, because even we were discussing before having international focus, but also being very aware of that you are in a regional context. So we need strong regional partners and regional teams as well.
I would like to share more about my experience. As I founded my own 2 startups, so talking about management, I think people are the most important assets in a company, especially if you are doing a technical company. So, not only like doing the business expansion, need to find a partnership around the world, but also like team management, how you collaborate with different people with diversified backgrounds, especially like engineering team, design team, and the business development team. So that's a very important part to maintain and make sure that as a leader, as a manager, you do have a lot of communication and engagement with people in your team that know more about what's your agenda and the goal. Eventually, I think people it's good to have different opinions, but how do you make the consensus of your plan and then find out the agreements in between and make sure that there are commitment. And that's more about managing startups. But talking about the 500 startups ventures, we have more than 100 people around the world. We are looking for unicorns and baby unicorns. We already started investment ever since 2000, and we already find a great 2,000 teams. That we are very passionate and interested about it. So we started incubating them and also invest in them. And since we are so internationalized and have more than 50, I think, different backgrounds in our organization, even though we just have over 100 people, we actually share a lot of different value and the culture, and try to find the local value through different partners in different locations. And every year, just today, after my session, I'm flying back to the Silicon Valley and I head to Las Vegas. We are going to have a company retreat. So the company retreat is meant to having people share like what happened and what you see. Through this retreat, that you actually not only share the views, but try to find what should be concrete and next, like in the following years. And so that's a very different and from the management, but working as a team is important to really collaborate with all the people from different departments.
So I think ZenCash was probably the best possible experience as like a first leadership role. So when we started, I was 21, and I was the main point of contact for all of our non-technical inbound hires. We did an ICO, and we had a really strong community based on all of the principles that we had embedded into our blockchain. And so we actually have only ever hired from within our like digital channels. And so that was fascinating because the interviews that I would have like straight off the bat would be more about values and kind of vision and less about experience, right? Because not many people have experience working in blockchain. Everyone in this room is like part of a really small minority who is contributing to this revolution. But it meant that every person on our team was really, really committed to the vision that we had. And so we were coming from a place of the same values, and so it was really easy to communicate despite having a team in 22 countries and mostly not meeting my colleagues in person, aside from the founders and a couple like key people who are based in the States or in Asia. And so some tactics that we like used in order to ensure that we still had like a really strong culture in the team, where we had calls 3 times a week that were optional. We had a really like strong support system for everyone who was working on the ground, from like more managerial roles and strategy roles, and we always acted like the higher up you are on like the chain of management, the more it was actually your job to just provide resources to the people making like the magic happen at the ground. And so we didn't really believe in hierarchy. Our culture was more of like, how can we make sure that each of us maximize what we're trying to do, and then also how can we take learnings per region and kind of extrapolate them out and develop high-level strategy from those.
Actually, we have a question about hiring. So when you hire people, what are the main qualities you're looking for? But I want 3 words, and you don't have to be in an order. Just throw them out, okay? 3 words, 3 characters you're looking for. Go.
Integrity.
Enthusiasm.
Communication skills.
1 more, each.
Flexible.
Ability to execute.
Team worker.
Yes, execution is key. Would you like to share some stories about your experience about executing a project or a mission that you guys have to lead?
Well, I can share an example actually from one of my teammates. So there was someone that we hired at Zen to be a community manager for Germany. And so usually the way we did it is we would start someone off with a really, really small role for like a week, 2 weeks, see if they could just do that, like bare minimum, even though it was nothing sexy and it was usually operational. And then we just scaled them up as we saw that they were more and more capable and as they proved themselves. But this guy, within, I think, a month, had already organized an event, had already gotten Zen accepted for the first time into an ICO, and had already started like building a local team. And all before we'd even paid him. And we'd only had like a couple interactions with him. So that was just such a good example of someone who was like a go-getter, and he's since like moved really high up and is managing a whole team of people now. So I thought that was like amazing to have like that experience as a leader, to see someone who could execute so well, because it pushes all of us to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think especially for blockchain startups, not many people know about it. Like today and yesterday, we mentioned that we are actually trying to influence the society and educate the people, and knowing more about this technology, how it will impact our future life. And so when we started to find the people who really are interested in this technology and envision like what will bring to the future life. And that's the people that we're looking for. We're not just looking for the pure engineers who can just do the coding, but they can imagine and think about how this technology can bring the impacts and the change of society. So that's very key part that when we are talking about like blockchain, AI company, we always are looking for the team or the leaders. They are so passionate about this future changes, and not only just thinking about like the short-term benefits through this, but just like it's more like a long-term how it can revolutionize the whole world.
Actually, I just want to pick up on what Jackie's saying there. It also it's very important to make sure, even when you're hiring or doing a blockchain project, that we look at it not so narrowly, just the technology and let's just do a coin and let's just do that. Is that we look at it as an ecosystem and how we are. As you said, we're going to change something. We're going to have some sort of impact other than just, oh, I've sold this much and this is how much we've raised. We've all been there. We've all done that. Let's move on to something that's a bit more meaningful. So we actually get adoption, we change mindsets, and we have blockchain technology as very mainstream as we can possibly get. But in execution, I only have a really short, small example. We recently had a meetup here, actually not in Bangkok, but in Sriracha, which you would never think of. Why would you go to Sriracha? Because we have, in Bangkok and in Thailand, we have a very large Japanese community. And you wouldn't think that would be a place to target, but for our demographic, NEM is so large and popular in Japan that we wanted to pinpoint this niche market that we have. So we conducted a meetup in Japanese in Sriracha, and we actually brought over NEM Japan, our NEM Japan leader. But my language skills aren't as good as they used to be, but I can still speak Japanese. So
perfect. You can speak Japanese perfectly.
We had a really successful, interesting meetup in Japanese, and we've been invited to do it again, but in Bangkok to get a larger crowd. But that was just from a conversation with one guy who was a fan of NEM from Japan in Bangkok. So we got that going, and hopefully it'll continue.
How do you deal with the local cultures and differences in working styles? Would you like to share about those kind of stories?
Well, for Bangkok, I've been here for 6 years, and I've led a couple of teams in different industries.
She's now half Thai.
No, I haven't been here that long. But there can be cultural differences. There can be some conflict. But open lines of communication are always the key to anything. And then just trying to understand the culture that you're working in. And in Thailand, luckily, there's always a workaround some way. And as long as you keep a positive attitude and open lines of communication, we're usually good.
For sure. Would you like to share?
I think for ecosystem building, it's more related to the localization. Like management internal team, it's more about the same concept that apply to smaller, like big companies. But big companies, of course, they have a more agenda and the rules. But I mean, talking about an ecosystem, like in this particular, like a blockchain ecosystem, especially, people are more advanced and they're passionate about the technology, how you can change, and what's a decentralizing, this crypto, what it matters to our future life. So we are still talking to a small group of people compared to the rest of the world. So I think that more important is how we can actually convey the message. So, to other people, not inside of this group, but to build the whole ecosystem and community. So yesterday we had an exercise at the very beginning. I think that was fun. So many people heard about these buzzwords like blockchain, AI, crypto, and but if you really want to make the impact and become a growing economy, so you have to have the general public to participate. I think for the general public, they are still in a process of learning this technology, and so to find out more about this information, this will come through our effort. And so I think we're not only talking about like how we can change, like ICO in between, influence each other, but we are to influence the whole world. And so how we can share this knowledge and share the concepts of this. And this is the key part that I think It's about the globalization, how we can transfer the message to the rest of the world.
So Zen, in less than a year, scaled from a team of about 5 to a team of over 50. And because of this, we didn't really have a choice about the kind of people that we hired. If we had to like focus on different regions, we more were emphasizing selecting individuals that we thought would like advance our mission. We decided to go with like a fully decentralized team. So we had no offices. We were in over 20 countries straight off the bat. And so it wasn't really an option to like pick regions and just focus on Zen in those specific ones, because the individuals that came to us were pretty scattered around the world and all like kind of catalyzed small communities. And we really liked that grassroots approach. And so straight off the bat, what that meant is we had to really understand what their needs were as individuals so that they could like maximize their ability to work with us. And so we had really direct communication or conversations where we asked them to essentially say, like, what is your needs in terms of deadlines? How much would you like to speak to the team every week? What's your perspective on, like, management and hierarchy? And so everyone who ended up being hired for Zen because of this, were all pretty evolved. And when they were hiring at the local level, they just did the exact same thing. And so it led to a culture of, like, a really, really strong communication and a lot of like understanding about cultural differences, but we never really felt like those inhibited our ability to execute together.
So we have time for one more question. Is there a question from the audience they want to ask? If not, we're going to ask each other questions. 5 minutes left. Any questions? We have one question over there. Is it possible to get a microphone? Or come. Oh, she's right there.
Come, use the mic. I'll pass it to you.
Good morning, ladies.
Hi there.
I have a question about what are you doing for organizational development and personal development of your teams?
Organizational development.
Right. Team building. How are you doing that with a diverse team culturally and spread across the planet?
Okay, so let me break it down for people who can't hear you. I think you're talking about personal and organizational development across cultures.
Right.
Yes.
Within your organization.
Within the organization.
You develop a culture, and Jane was mentioning about looking for team members and asking their needs and their views of hierarchy and management. So how do you create the culture you want in your organizations and develop those teams?
Okay, I can do something really, really short, just because we are so widespread across the globe. Organizational-wise, as anybody knows, when you move in this space to try to make it actually into a business, now we're a bit more evolved in that sense, but there are growing pains in every company when you move from, say, startup to actual business. And we're now moving from ICOs to working projects and working companies. That's always a challenge. Organizationally, we're trying to collectively work together. And now, even though we have decentralized teams, they are regional, and we're trying to get like a cohesive feel across the teams, that even though you're in the Philippines, you know that the guys in Europe are going to say pretty much the exact same thing. So we're setting these systems in motion now, where we have media training, we have organizational training, so that we all have the same message, even though we are cross-cultural.
I think there are a couple of points that I would like to share. One is core value, and the other is how do you manage the conflict, and also the command chain. I think core value is very important to have the leader to convey the message, what your company's core value is about. You can be a nonprofit, so you are doing things, don't do evil, you do the good things for society. You are not seeking for profits, but also maybe you are thinking about your company core service or product can impact the world, or or change the life of next generation. So that's a core value you really need to convey the message thread about all the organization. Let everybody know about what you really want to achieve, and also share the same value. If they don't share the same value, don't try to squeeze them in. So just just let them out, because I think people management always takes time. It's very. I think it's very hard and important, but try to save the time to manage a conflict. The second part is the conflict management. So how do you make sure that your people from different departments, they may share the same value. Everybody wants to do good things, but they think differently. So like an engineers team, a business development team, they always want different things. How do you manage it and communicate it? Make sure that when they commit in a conference, that they follow through. And the third thing is that, so when we talk about command chain, I think nowadays most startups would like to, don't really want to have a hierarchy or command chain. But no matter you have a 3 people team or 5 people team, even grow to like 15, 50, and more than 100, then grow up, become a bigger organization. Command chain is always important, because the people may have a different ways to achieve the same results or to reach the same goal, but through the process, without command chain, people just hang there. So you have to make sure that who makes the final call and who makes the judgment call, and what really matters through this conversation. After that, I think every company, and especially like an international one, most of the time people share their very diversified views. But if you can do this couple of things and manage them well, you can form your own company's culture.
Okay, I have like 30 seconds. But having a really strong set of individual values is kind of a prerequisite to joining Privacy Coin that did an ICO and is essentially trying to build encrypted payment and messaging channels. I like your question a lot, because it's not easy necessarily to then embed those values in organizational systems and processes, especially because there is an inherent trade-off between maximizing efficiency and then having a really open dialogue between employees with minimal managerial hierarchy and everything like that. And so it's definitely an ongoing iteration that requires people to be very attentive to how they're communicating with each other at the ground level, but then also with management. And so I think a really big indicator of success for that is when each team member can genuinely say that they feel like the culture is representative of their values, but then can give tangible examples of how the way we do things at Zen differs from the way other, previous experience they've had in companies made them feel.
Thank you so much, ladies. You're out of time, but we'll be here. We'll be around and see you later. Thank you so much.